if you want to be the best, you have to compete with the best. This is the mentality that was embedded into me growing up, and it's what my father taught me. And I like that idea. If you want to be the best at something, you have to compete against the best that are doing it. But in regards to like bass fishing tournaments, it's interesting. There's a lot of moving parts here. The individual that has the financial advantages of being able to have all the best toys can learn at a faster rate versus someone who doesn't have those same financial advantages, that's fishing out of a smaller boat. But that individual in that smaller boat without those financial advantages could learn different techniques better than that guy who's impatient and has the big motor that can run a ton of water and find active fish. So I kind of always remain on the fence in regards to, does the person who have the most money that bass fishes as much as a person who doesn't have as much, do they have the advantage? And in tooling, in regards to like electronics and stuff like that, and trolling motors and big motors, yes, they do. But did that individual who kind of knew they didn't have those advantages and had to learn other ways, do they have an advantage in a sense? And they also do. Like, I'll often say this, like in kayak fishing tournaments, I believe kayak fishermen become much better finesse fishermen, or really soaking a technique, or really trying to perfect slower moving techniques, whereas bass boat guys, reaction bait styles or jumping from spot to spot to try to find active fish becomes, what we'll do more often, instead of being very slow and methodical, though that's not always the case. But you can see that you actually are forced to learn a different way versus somebody with all the financial advantages is learning a different style. And that is the best part about bass fishing, is there's a million different ways to catch them. But I think in the recent years, and I released a video just before this one talking about the future of fishing electronics and how much bigger of an advantage they actually will be. So I want you to think about it in this sense. So yes, there's an advantage to not having the fast boat, not having the best electronics. You become more intuitive to the feel of your bait, your rod, really picking apart what you have, where that guy who is running around doesn't really learn that as much as you, and vice versa. That person running and gunning and has the best electronics and fine stuff has their own advantage. But recently with fishing technology, there's such large advantages into having a bigger bankroll in regards to trolling motors and fishing electronics, like with live and with GPS lock trolling motors, spot lock, things like in that regard, to where I am almost feeling like, yes, 5-10 years ago, the guy with just the really expensive boat, you'd often see this guy show up at a tournament, okay, and has all the best of the best, and doesn't fish quite as much as the guy with the broke down boat and the cheap electronics. That's me for a long time. That was the majority of my life, to where you would see that guy with that cheaper boat walking away with the trophy, walking away with the check, to whereas now the advantages are becoming so extreme, like with live, and they're going to get even more extreme, even with like these trolling motors and these extremely fast boats, to where you have a lot of tournaments that already exist, open tournaments, everyone's allowed. And then you have out here on the West Coast, we have some organizations to where I believe if you've made over 5,000 in winnings that year, you're not allowed to fish that organization. And I think that's great and all, but I'm kind of wondering what the future of bass fishing is going to look like in regards to, are we going to have financial cap of what your boat, motor, and electronics can cap out at? Is that going to ever become a thing? And I look at this in bass fishing, it's like, because it's becoming so extreme, like, I'm not saying like live is cheating, okay? You still have to go out there, you still have to catch the fish, but if you and we have the exact same skills, we fish just as often, and we go to a lake where it's offshore, or we're hump fishing, and all you have is 2D sonar, and I have live sonar, if we have that same skill set, same intuition, I'm going to bet on the guy with live every single time. So you can see right here that this argument actually does hold credence, if for what I'm telling you right here, that this is going to be a thing. So I'm kind of wondering if that's going to ever be a thing in the future, you know, because it's not like another sport where you grow up with one ball and everyone can play when you go out to a field. No, you learn very differently according to you know, how much money your family has, and are they willing to invest in you when you're young, or your work schedule, can you be out there more often than the other guy, you know. So I get a lot of these tournament organizations that if you made over 5,000 you can't compete. Yeah, maybe your skill set's too good for that bracket, and I get that. That's not for me, of course, but you know, if I worked Monday through Friday at a regular job and didn't fish for a living, I would probably be looking into that as well. But what do you guys think? I'm curious. What do you think the future of bass fishing tournaments are going to look like? Is it going to be more of that, more financial winning caps? Or do you think it's actually going to be the value of the boat, or what you can and cannot have on the boat? I'm really curious. I've always liked the 5 fish limit. I'm starting to watch more of the MLF stuff. I'm going to release a video on that very subject of relatability, and it's very interesting what old timers think versus young guys, and I'm getting all these different perspectives. But I was really wondering to myself, what is the future of bass fishing tournaments going to look like? So comment below. Let's talk about it for a little bit, because I think it's going to be very different. I can't quite put my finger on what it's going to look like, but I definitely think we're going to have some sort of financial bracketing system, or maybe what you can even afford, or what your boat can and cannot have on it. I'm Nick, the Informative Fisherman. Follow me on all the popular social media channels. Thanks for watching, guys.